Let's hear the death story.
I answered that question, and I thought what I answered it. Oh, so the question was, what was something you have confronted that you never thought you would be confronted with, something to that effect? And I was the one that wrote that the doctor was telling me about
preparing you for your death.
And I thought the way that the question answer would happen would be that I would tell the story so people would understand that I'm not actually dying. But then when we moved to the next question, I was like, oh, maybe I should have caveated that to say, don't worry, everybody, I'm going to be okay. So, don't worry, everybody, I'm going to be okay. A few weeks ago, I had my wisdom teeth taken out. I was nervous because I've never had surgery before, and so I arranged to have a friend to pick me up. And I was also nervous because I had a little cold the week before, so I was still a little sniffly. But I went to the doctor. They're like, "You'll be fine. Just go have your surgery." So, I went under. As they're sticking the IV on me, I'm like sweating because I'm so nervous about having the ID. But I wake up an hour later. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Surgery went fine. So my friend comes and picks me up and brings me home. I'm giggling the whole way home from the anesthesia. And then about 8 hours later, I woke up and the entire right, you're a little swollen when you have your wisdom teeth taken out, but all of a sudden the entire right side of my face completely blew up, and I was like, well, that's kind of strange, just 8 hours after the surgery. So I took a photo of it with my phone and I sent it to my parents, and my dad's like, Meg, you're overreacting, it's all part of the surgery, like, it'll be fine. In the process of being on the phone with my dad, he's trying to cover me, my entire eye swells up, so now it's shut. So the whole right side of my face is now quite inflated. So I was like, well, this isn't normal. So I called my friend, and I was like, Joe, I'm really scared. Something's going on here. Can you come over and keep me company? And so he's like, sure, no problem. He comes over. He's like, I think it's probably a reaction to the Vicodin. You're probably just allergic. So he looks it up online, and he looks at me. He's like, we need to go to the emergency room. Shuts the laptop. He's like, I'm getting my car. I'll be here in 5 minutes. So he drives me to the hospital. And so now it's like 8 p.m. at night, and I'm really weak because I haven't eaten all day because when your wisdom teeth taken out, your mouth is filled with cotton. And so I'm feeling really weak, and they lie me down. They put another IV in me. They're like giving me saline solution, taking blood. And I sent the photo to my oral surgeon as well, and he's like, this is not normal. If it was a reaction to the Vicodin, both sides of your face would be swollen. I'm like, okay, but he's probably wrong. It's probably that. So they start giving me things to reduce the swelling. And then they're like, well, just to be safe, we're going to do a CAT scan of your face. And so they wheel me in, I do the CAT scan, I come back, and I'm lying in the bed in the emergency room, and all of a sudden all these doctors start rushing in, and they're pumping antibiotics in my arm. And so I asked one of the nurses, I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, well, we think you have an infection. We've called in the head and throat surgeon. This is very, very serious. I can't really give you any detail, but the doctor will be here to give you your odds shortly. And I was like, my odds? So I start like convulsing, and I'm crying, and they're trying to take blood, and they can't like find blood, and they're like, oh, making jokes about like, oh, I really have to root rat. I'm like, this is not a time to be joking about that. And so like my whole life is flashing before my eyes because like I went under this elective surgery, and now in a few hours I'm going to be dead. And so then like 30 minutes later, the head and throat surgeon comes in, and he's like, actually, you're not dying. What happened was when they took the CT scan, they saw a lot of air in your face, and that's a sign of this very rare, very deadly flesh-eating bacteria, which you don't have. What actually happened is when the oral surgeon took out your wisdom teeth, he perforated your sinus, and because you're a little bit sick and have been blowing your nose, you've been blowing air through the hole in your sinus and inflating your face as if it were a child's party balloon. And so they sent me home from the hospital, and I had to spend the next week sleeping. I couldn't lie down, so I had to sleep sitting up. I'm not allowed to fly or scuba dive for a few more months as the hole closes.
How did it deflate?
The air had to be absorbed.
So if you were to fly, this would...
Did you have to press it out? You have to press it out?
Well, the doctor tried that. Like, he would press down the air here, and it would make my cheek...
Really?
So oh my God. It was terrible. It was terrible. quite a new frontier because
You never thought you were going to die.
Well, no. So the week before, I had left my job because I'm going back to graduate school in the fall, and so I'm spending this summer getting my yoga teacher certification. And in the program, we're getting very deep into the philosophical texts of yoga, and there's a lot of talk about finding your true self and finding the divine and confrontation of these obstacles, one of which is fear of death. And so I feel like I have this great perspective, having just gone through that fear, to really dive into these texts in my program. So,
Bravo.
Fun, happy ending to the story.
You're not going to die. Yeah.